President Wavell Ramkalawan, thank you for speaking to BBC News today. This massive $50 million corruption case and an illegal arms find, it may surprise people that this has happened in a country which perhaps they associate with peace, tranquility, it's famously beautiful, and the people quite content. So what's gone wrong?
Well, first of all, it was known to many people that $50 million from the UAE government had disappeared. But then we also knew that there were other corruption cases, which, by the way, are still being investigated. And as far as arms are concerned, we know that there are still arms in the hands of those who should not be carrying arms. And this is why earlier last year, I actually offered an amnesty for the return of arms and ammunition. And some people didn't take it seriously. So, yes, we knew that there were arms scattered a bit, and we will, during the course of this year, continue to implore people to return those arms, because as a country, we do not want arms to be in the hands of those who should not be carrying arms.
So those arms in the community, I mean, what does that say perhaps about the stability of the country?
Well, I think this is a remnant of the previous government, where arms, of course, played a very important role. You have to remember that the Seychelles didn't have an army until '77, at the time of the coup. The Seychellois didn't know what an AK-47 was. And it's only in '77 that this was introduced. And since then, a lot of arms have entered the country. We also arrested a boat, a ship, the Malo, which was carrying arms from Yugoslavia to Somalia. And these arms found their way amongst the public. And then, in the end, the majority of these arms were sold to Zaire, and that was part of the Seychelles' involvement in the Rwandan genocide.
Do you think that this arms find, this latest arms find, points to the possibility that a coup d'etat has been foiled?
Well, we cannot say. But the question that we ask is, why were those arms still being kept? And that's the $100 million question. And from what I've learned, well, those AK-47s could still, they were still in good condition, and therefore could still be used. The only thing that those people needed to do was to hand in those arms, and that would have been it.
So how much threat do you think you personally could be under?
Well, I'm not scared of a lot of these things that I hear, but at the same time, you have to be careful. When you know there are arms around, and you know that some people are desperate for power, and at the same time to know that the political party that we defeated in the October 2020 election was one that came to power through a coup in '77, and up to this day we're still going through the Truth Commission, which is discovering so many things of the disappearances, the killings, the torture. So this is the party we faced. And
so what's all that doing for the country's reputation, all this expiation?
Well, that's it. We've said that we want to move the country forward. And it's in that spirit that we're saying no arms in the hands of civilians. It's only the police and the military who should be carrying arms, and there again, carrying arms in a responsible manner. For example, I can tell you, even senior army officers are not given a personal weapon. And all this is, in the spirit of removing arms from civil life.
What are the implications for the country's donors, foreign aid donors, now that they're seeing that money that was given to the country, $50 million to help its foreign exchange crisis 20 years ago, was possibly taken and laundered? What's it doing for the country's reputation?
Well, the message that we want to send to everyone, including those who have been involved in corruption, is this administration has a zero tolerance for corruption. And therefore, we will, through the Anti-Corruption Commission, try and return every single cent back into government coffers, because we believe the money and other donations were for the people of Seychelles. And therefore, to steal from the people of Seychelles is a crime. And it's a crime that will not be forgiven, but it's a crime that needs to follow the legal process.
How much do you think you're going to get back?
Well, 20 years ago, 50 million were taken. So we hope that the 50 million by now would have produced hundreds of millions. And we're hoping to get everything back. And this is what we are aiming for. And we hope that the Anti-Corruption Commission, as it goes through the legal process and together with the courts, as they present the evidence, the court will come to their decision.
That could mean a cash bonanza for a country of 100,000 people. What would you do with it?
Well, don't forget that we still are going through an economic crisis. Last year, we ran a budgetary deficit of 2 billion Seychelles rupees. And obviously, any amount that we get will definitely help the country towards stability, economic stability. Then we also have a lot of projects, housing projects, school building projects, the health system. That's money that would definitely go into national projects that will serve to improve the lives of our people. This is what this government is all about.
This country leads the way, or is very near the top of the Human Development Index for Africa. So what would be your top priority, do you think, if you suddenly had a large amount of money?
If suddenly we had a large amount of money, one, we would look at the debts that we have to relieve ourselves of some of the debts, especially the foreign debts. Secondly, we would look at, as I mentioned, education, health, social, the social side of life. These would be the three basic priorities, because we know if we can work on these three, then the standard of living of our people will improve. And already, you've seen in the midst of the pandemic, Seychelles put a lot of emphasis on vaccination. And today we are number one in Africa, and at one point we were number one in the world. So this goes to show how serious we are. And any money that we get will go back to the people in order to improve their lives.
The Anti-Corruption Commissioner, Maida Silva, told me last week that she's looking at 55 cases of corruption. Is there enough resourcing for this quite small country to cope with that amount of investigation?
I guess the answer is no. In fact, since coming into office, we've realized that there are so many issues that we need to tackle. And every day you discover a new one. We need more resources for the police in the fight against drugs. We need more resources for health in giving the top services. The fight against corruption, if you mention 55 cases, obviously she doesn't have, the Commission doesn't have the resources. So this is where we hope that we will get help from our friends, and already we are receiving some help from the British government, the European Union. So we need help, and if we get the right resources, I can assure you that we will bring back the money.
You've got so far 6 suspects, high-profile individuals in custody, and potentially there could be more high-profile individuals. How is your detention system going to cope with that particular challenge?
Well, one of the things that we will be doing right at the beginning of this year is to look at detention facilities. And I must admit that right now, with all the drug traffickers that we've arrested and others for other crimes, and those facilities are overwhelmed. And it's not right to keep somebody in a prison cell at a police station, because well, especially when they are remanded for 14 days or longer. We definitely need to work on that, and this is part of the priority. We need a proper remand center so that the rights of each of those individuals will be respected, and therefore they will not be able to complain that they are not being taken good care of. We need to take good care of everybody, and this is part of the thinking of this administration.
The world's interest in Seychelles has suddenly peaked by this case. Is that an embarrassment?
No, it's not. On the contrary, I would say that the world has suddenly realized that. For the first time, we have an administration that will leave no stone unturned, and that what is wrong will be dealt with. And if the world, from now on, sees Seychelles as a country where corruption is not tolerated, where justice is fairly dished out, and where we can rest assured that any gift to Seychelles is properly utilized, then I'm the happiest person. And at the same time, we need, because we're part of the African continent, we also need to send this strong message to the African continent to say, we need to clean up our act. Africa cannot be seen as a place where corruption reigns. And as small as we are in Seychelles, we are leading by example, and hopefully this will trickle down in other parts of Africa, and then the resources of our great continent will be put to good use.
The EU has recently taken Seychelles off its blacklist of countries because of the previous secrecy there was around business tax advantages here. How does that help this country?
We are still on the grey list, and in fact we're hoping that by March we will have been removed from that grey list and be on the white list. But again, this has not just come about, I mean, we haven't received any gift from heaven, but we've had to work very hard. We've had to amend so many laws. And only in the last sitting of Parliament for last year, they had to deal with 10 pieces of legislation. So the message once again is clear. Seychelles is not interested in those hanky-panky deals. We want to do things in a clean way. We want transparency and accountability to be standards by which we do business.
So if I can put this to you, you're having a crackdown on corruption. You're tightening up legislation around offshore businesses. You are having a crackdown on drug dealers, and now you've got this $50 million case. I mean, aren't you slightly concerned that you're going to make a lot of enemies?
Well, this is part of the responsibility. In fact, I can turn this around to say that the previous administration was scared of making enemies and in the process destroyed the country by allowing so much money to go unaccounted for when they knew exactly what happened. But we're not doing things for politics. We're not interested in populist politics. We are interested in doing what is right. And whilst, of course, we will make enemies, but on the other hand, I do hope that the people of Seychelles will realize that all these amounts and all the other elements were happening and that these were taking away from them resources that would improve their lives. And therefore, I hope this is the majority that we will be serving. Because these people, the majority of the Seychellois, were not getting anything from the monies that were stolen. They didn't have any special accounts or buildings all over the world. For them, it was a daily struggle.
You are an ordained Anglican priest, and many of the population call you father. Mm-hmm. You seem to be riding a crest of a wave of popularity. How long can you maintain that?
Well, I'm not interested in the popularity. I'm interested in doing what we promised the people of Seychelles in our manifesto. And in our manifesto, it was clear. The fight against corruption, and for 4 years as the leader of the opposition, that was the one mantra that I kept reciting. We were going to fight corruption, and by fighting corruption, help alleviate poverty, help give our people a better life, and help ensure that everybody in this country is considered for who she is, without putting politics. And this is exactly what we've been doing during this 1 year. So it's nothing to do with popularity. It is fulfilling the manifesto promises, obligations, commitments.
In that first 14 months of your leadership, you made any mistakes?
Well, I'm sure. I'm sure some people would say we made some mistakes.
What are you prepared to admit to?
Oh yes. I mean, if somebody points anything out to me, I'm prepared to. I'm the first one to say, yeah, maybe we could have done it in a different manner. I mean, for example, when we increased the bus fares, when the people reacted and said, "Oh, but no, we should keep it the same for Sundays and public holidays," we were the first ones to say, "Yeah, okay, we'll change that." Ours is a government that interacts with the people, and therefore, when people tell us what they think and what they tell us makes sense, we follow. We're always ready to listen to the voice of reason.
It's been a pretty tumultuous introduction to your premiership, these first 14 months. What is coming next?
Well, I guess we're in a situation where you just don't know what will be thrown at you next. Right now, okay, we were doing extremely well with the COVID pandemic, and suddenly Omicron was thrown at us and at the whole world. And now the numbers are going up.
How worried are you about that?
Well, I am worried, of course, but at the same time, because we are prepared, this lessens the worry. We already have certain facilities. Just in case the number of admissions rise, we will be able to cater for these people.
But what about the potential damage, further damage to your economy, the tourism trade on which you rely so heavily?
Yeah, this is a worry. This is a worry. But the difference now is every country is on a red list because everybody is suffering in the same way. So well, the UK, which kept us on its red list for some time, is in a very difficult position to put any other country on a red list because its situation is really bad. So at the same time, we look at what is happening. South Africa, it looks as if it has peaked and the numbers are now going down. And first instance, the scientists were saying the Omicron variant is a terrible variant. But now they are saying, no, on the contrary, it's less aggressive than Delta. And South Africa is now noticing that, in fact, Omicron is eliminating Delta. So this is good news. And I can tell you, the number of admissions that we've had over the last three weeks has been minimal. We haven't had a single death from COVID. The numbers for the last week has been maintained at 134, and the symptoms that people report with are mild. In fact, some people are tested positive, and they say, "But I'm okay. I don't feel anything." So we are praying that this will be the direction we continue to move in, but at the same time, we are in a state of preparedness in case things get bad.
On the subject of the tourist trade and how it could be affected by COVID, I see France is now ascending to the presidency of the EU, and this is a francophone country. Could that somehow advantage Seychelles?
Well, maybe yes. And, well, we've got a very good relationship we've got very good relations with France through Aignan. Air Austral has now started to fly back to Seychelles. So at least we can sit and talk. And France has invited me, in fact, later in February, to attend the EU conference. So yes, there is a good rapport there, and if this can help Seychelles in any way, wonderful. Air France still flies to Seychelles. Club Med was full, is still full over the Christmas New Year season. French tourists are pouring into the country, so things are still looking very good, and any help that we can get from France will be very well received.
Finally, Mr. President, what's top of your priority list for 2022?
2022, I want to make sure that we have a civil service that delivers. I mentioned that last year, and this is my top priority. A civil service that delivers to the people of Seychelles, that does not cause our people frustration. This is my priority number one. But then, of course, there are the other issues, of course, the economy, health, and everywhere else. But a civil service that is top in the world and which delivers to the people of Seychelles.
President Ramkalawan, thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, Patrick, and